Okay, so this afternoon we are going to be looking at how you punctuate dialogue within your writing, and whether you are writing a story or whether you are writing an information type of text, the way that we punctuate the dialogue is exactly the same. And when we speak about dialogue, we are speaking about someone talking, okay? And what we are speaking about today is what we call the direct speech. So you are showing that someone is actually saying something within your writing. Now, there are a lot of different rules that you need to remember, okay? Now, the first one is when you are punctuating the speech, you need to use what we call inverted commas. Okay. Now, sometimes at school, you might call these speech marks, or sometimes at school, they might call them 66 or 99, or even quotation marks. Okay. So they have lots of different names. And what they look like is these little bits, and they are in the air. And at school, you're probably taught to do it so that it looks like the numbers 66 and 99. As you progress through school, you will probably end up doing it so that it looks more like two lines. If I type it, it also looks a bit different. So if I type it, it, it looks like, and let me just put some dots in the middle of it. So when you type it, it looks a little bit like the way that I have drawn it with the two lines, okay? So that is what we are speaking about when we talk about inverted commas. And I'm going to call them inverted commas because that is the proper grammatical name for them. I know that at school you may call them speech marks or the 66 and 99, but I'm going to use kind of the proper language for them. Okay. So the first thing we need to know when we're putting our inverted commas, we need to know what is actually spoken. So my sentence at the bottom, can I have pizza for tea? Asked Mike. I need to look and I need to think, what is Mike actually saying? Okay. And the bit that Mike is speaking is, can I have pizza for tea? Okay. He isn't saying, asked Mike. He is just wanting to know, can he have pizza? And what I then need to do is I need to get my inverted commas and they need to go before the can and look very carefully at the end inverted commas because it needs to go after the question mark. So the final inverted commas go after any punctuation that you have got within the bit of speech. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to remember. The second thing we need to think about is this idea of the reporting clause. And the reporting clause shows who is talking. So if I come back to this slide here, can I have pizza for tea? That's what's being spoken. The reporting clause asked Mike. It tells me who is asking the question. So I'm still going to use Mike. So what is the time? So for the second one, I am going to turn it around and I'm going to say, what is the time Mike asked? And then I need a full stop. Now, if I wanted to say, what is the time asked Mike? It's really important that you know that the asked doesn't need a capital letter, even though there is a question mark before it. And that is because in terms of grammar, all of this is classed as one sentence, and you don't need a capital letter in the middle of a sentence unless you have someone's name. So if you say Mike asked, it would need to be capitalized, okay? Now, in the first sentence, if I want the reporting clause before what is spoken, I couldn't say asked Mike what is the time, because that doesn't make sense. If I'm putting the reporting clause before it, I need to say Mike asked what is the time. And there is another rule that we will learn in a minute, but I need to put a comma after that part to introduce the speech, but we will speak about that rule in a second, okay? And let me just get rid of the drawings. So the next thing that we need to remember, we've put our inverted commas around what is spoken. We have included a reporting clause, and the next bit, the dialogue always begins with a capital letter. So the bit that it is spoken needs to have a capital letter to start with. So let me get my highlighter back again. So Alan screamed, "Get me out of here." So Alan is saying, "Get me out of here." So what we need to do with this, we need our inverted commas before the get and after the here. And what I need to do with the word get, I need to make sure that it begins with a capital letter. So get me out of here. The first word of what is spoken is always a capital letter, okay? Now, the next rule that we need to follow is the comma. So if you have a reporting clause at the beginning of the dialogue, you need a comma, and then you will have the person, what the person is saying. So Mina asked, "Can I have an apple?" So looking at that sentence, the bit that is being spoken, Mina asked, "Can I have an apple?" So the first thing I need to do, I need to put my inverted commas. So it goes before the can and after the apple. Then I need to have a capital letter C for can, because it begins with a capital letter for the first word. And this next rule that we're looking at, have a comma after the reporting clause. So let me put my comma comes here, and then the speech marks, and then the capital letter, okay? So that's the next rule. And the final rule for when we've got only one person speaking is that we need to have punctuation at the end of what is spoken, but before the inverted commas. So let's have a look at this. "Can we go to the zoo?" questioned AJ. So the bit that is being spoken, let me have a look. What is AJ saying? AJ is saying, "Can we go to the zoo?" Okay, so let me put my inverted commas in first of all, because they are kind of the easy bits to put in. So he's saying, "Can I go to, or can we go to the zoo?" Okay. Then I need to remember my capital letter rule. So that bit there is a capital letter. Can we go to the zoo? Now, what I also need to think, can we go to the zoo? It's a question. AJ is asking a question. So I need to put a question mark after the word zoo, but before the inverted commas. And with this one, I also need to remember my full stop at the very end there because it shows that it is the end of a sentence. Okay, so those are the rules for if only one person is speaking. Now, if we have two people speaking, there is a separate rule that we need to remember. So we need to remember if there are two people, we need the rule new speaker, new line. Okay, and I kind of remember that for a little rhyme. 66.99, new speaker, new line. So it reminds me, I need my inverted commas at either end of what is being said, but I need a new line for the new person that is speaking. So let's have a look, first of all, at the actual bits that are being spoken in here. So, what do you want to drink? Asks Mum. So, Mum is saying, what do you want to drink? Now, Mum doesn't say, ask Mum. I would like orange juice, replied James. So the next part is James speaking, and James is saying, I would like orange juice. Okay, so when Mum stops speaking and James starts speaking, so here we need to have a new line to show that James has started speaking. So let's look at the other bits that we need to include. So we need inverted commas around what is being said. So let's do Mum first of all. So inverted commas around what Mum is being saying. It's already, let's make sure that we can see that that is a capital there. So I need a capital at the beginning. So what do you want to drink? What do you want to drink is a question. So I need a question mark at the end there. Ask Mum. Now that bit needs a full stop after ask Mum. Okay. And this part here, let me just write it above it. This part here, I would like orange juice. That needs to begin on a new line. So that part there, we start it on a new line because that is when James starts speaking. So I need to remember inverted commas around what James is saying. So there, because it started with the pronoun I, it is a capital letter anyway, so we don't need to worry about that. So I would like orange juice, inverted commas, replied James, and I'll put my full stop in because that is the end of the sentence there. Now, the one other bit that I need is some punctuation here where it says, I would like orange juice. Now, what I'm going to put there is a comma because it's not a at the end of the sentence because I've got replied James that finishes my sentence. So I'm going to put a comma there because James isn't asking a question and it's not an exclamation. Okay, so that is the rule for if there are two people speaking, new speaker, new line. Okay, so let me get rid of that page and let's look at the bits that you have got on your bit of paper. So we've got this bit here, and I need to read it and I need to think, what is being spoken? So, what do you think you are doing? Screamed Mr. James. So I can look and I can see that this part here, that part there, that is the dialogue. And I'm just going to write the word dialogue in the box there, and I'm just going to draw a line so we know which bit we are speaking about. Then I have these bits at the beginning and at the end, and they are inverted commas. So I'm going to make a note of that. And I have noticed two sets of them. I've got one at the beginning, one at the end. And inverted commas, they are always in pairs. You're never going to find them on their own. There are always one set at the beginning, one set at the end. Okay, so let me add inverted commas, and I will draw my lines so I can explain where they're going to. So inverted commas are there and there. Now the next rule that we learned, it starts with a capital letter. So let me circle my capital letter, and I'm going to write that underneath. So it begins with a capital letter. Okay. And looking at the end of the speech, I have a question mark. So I have at the end, I have punctuation, and it's really important that it is before the inverted commas. So I'm going to put that underneath. So my punctuation, whether it is a exclamation mark, a question mark, or a comma, it always goes before those inverted commas at the end. And then the last bit is screamed Mr. James. And that part there is something called our reporting clause. It's the bit that tells us who is speaking. So that is really important, because if I don't say Mr. James, I won't know who is doing the screaming. Okay, so the reporting clause is really important because it tells the reader who is saying it. So I will save that one, and then the next one that we've got, it's the same sentence, but the bits are in a different place. So let's look at our next sentence, because I've got Mr. James screamed, "What do you think you are doing?" So this time I've got things in a slightly different place. So I've got at the beginning, Mr. James screamed, and that is my reporting clause. Okay, so that this time it is at the beginning of the actual dialogue. So Mr. James screamed is the reporting clause. Now notice after the bit that says Mr. James screamed, I have a comma. And whenever your reporting clause is at the beginning of the sentence, you will have a comma after it. Okay. And then I have the bit that Mr. James is screaming. So, what are you doing? That part there, that is still it's still called dialogue. It's what Mr. James is saying. Okay. Then I've got my other rules that we needed to remember. I've started and I have ended with inverted commas. Okay, so again, they're in pairs. So I've got one set at the beginning, I've got the other set at the end there. So let me just type that in the box. So I've got inverted commas at the beginning and the end. I also have the capital letter here at the beginning of the dialogue. And again, I also have this punctuation at the end. So I have got a question mark here, it could be if the dialogue is at the end, it might be a full stop or an exclamation mark. It's not going to end with a comma if the dialogue is at the end. Okay, so there is some sort of punctuation as the final part of the sentence. So those bits you've now labeled each of your sentences. You know what we need to include. So let's have a quick look at the next part where we are going to add in all of those missing bits to our sentences. Okay, so I've got 5 sentences here, and I'm going to look at them one sentence at a time. And I'm going to break it down into the chunks just like we have been doing. So I'm coming to get you, shouted Marcus as they played hide and seek. Now, I need to look and I need to think really carefully here. So, what is being spoken? So, the bit that is spoken, I'm coming to get you. So that part there is the dialogue. Okay. Now, shouted Marcus, that part of the sentence is the reporting clause. It tells me who is speaking. So I've got my dialogue, I've got my reporting clause. As they played hide and seek, that is just the subordinate clause that says what they're doing. Okay. So I need to focus on the beginning part of the sentence, the main clause with the speech in it. And I need to think about how do I punctuate it? So the first thing I need to do, put my inverted commas around what is being said. So it is going to come before the I'm and after the get you. Okay. Now mine's kind of floating in the air a bit further over, but if you were to write it, it would come closer to the word you. Now I also need to begin with a capital letter. So I'm, it should be capitalized. So I need capital letter. It still needs to have the apostrophe in it. Okay. Now I think if Marcus was saying, I'm coming to get you, he's going to shout it with excitement. So it's not just going to be, I'm coming to get you. He's going to be really screaming it. So, I'm coming to get you. And he's going to need that exclamation mark to show that emotion in what he is saying. And that is going to come before the inverted commas. Okay, so there is, let me just do it in a different color so you can see that it is there. So the exclamation mark is coming there. Now, I also need to be careful because I've been a bit mean. I have missed out the other capital letters. So Marcus is someone's name, so he needs the capital letter for his name. The only other punctuation that I need to put in here comes at the end of the sentence. I need to have a full stop at the end. Okay. So, oh, the next one. Harry whispered, I don't think he will find us here. So I can see I've got a reporting clause at the beginning of this one. It tells me who is speaking and how they are speaking. So Harry whispered is my reporting clause, and he is whispering, I don't think he will find us here. So that part is the actual dialogue. So in this one, we've got it the opposite way round. We've got the reporting clause at the beginning, and we have the dialogue at the end. Okay. Now, I need to remember Harry is someone's name, so I need to remember at the beginning there, it needs a capital H, okay? So let's come back to the punctuation of the dialogue. So I need to have, first of all, inverted commas around what is being said. So the bit that is spoken is, I don't think he will find us here. So I need to put inverted commas at the beginning before the I, and inverted commas after here at the end. Now, I need to remember the next rule, a capital letter at the beginning. So that I, it needs to be a capital letter. So there you go, above it. And then, I don't think he will find us here. Because he is whispering it, that just needs to be a full stop at the end. Okay, so because it's the end of the sentence, it is a full stop. If it was the other way round, I don't think he will find us here, Harry whispered, you would need a comma for that part. Okay, so the next one, let's have a look, see if I can find my reporting clause and my dialogue. So, what do you want for dinner? Mum asked. So, what do you want for dinner is what Mum is actually saying. The mum asked is my reporting clause because it tells me who is speaking. Okay, so let's just make our note at the beginning. We've got this one, the speech is first, and the reporting clause is at the end. So let's think about our punctuation again. So we're punctuating the dialogue first. We're going to use our inverted commas. So at the beginning of the speech, at the end of the speech, okay? Then I need to remember my capital letter for what. So let's put that here, just above it, so that you can see that it has the capital letter. What do you want for dinner? Mum is asking a question. So because Mum is asking a question, think what punctuation you're going to need. To show that it is a question, you are going to need the question mark after the word dinner, but before the inverted commas. Mum doesn't need a capital letter, but I do need a full stop after Mum asked. Okay. And then Sarah is replying to Mum. So Sarah replied, please can I have beans on toast? So Sarah replied is my reporting clause. Please can I have beans on toast? That is a dialogue. That's what she is saying. So let's label those bits. And that is the dialogue at the other end. So think about my rules for punctuating dialogue. I'm going to go with inverted commas first. So before the please and after toast. Then I need to think about my capital letters. Now, Sarah is a name, so she needs a capital letter, and please at the beginning needs to have a capital letter. Okay. And then also I needs to be a capital in there. So I've got my capital letters. Please can I have beans on toast? She's not asking a question. She's not screaming it or shouting it. So it just needs to have the full stop at the end there. And oh, Simon's not feeling so happy. So no, I want pizza, demanded Simon. Let's have a look at which bit is the reporting clause, which bit is the dialogue. So, no, I want pizza. That is what Simon is saying, but he's not just saying it, he is demanding it. So, demanded Simon is my reporting clause at the end. So, this bit here is the dialogue at the beginning. The reporting clause goes at the end. Okay. Then I need to use my rules of punctuating dialogue again. So inverted commas around what is being said. So no, I want pizza. Then I need capital letter rule. So a capital letter for no. And there is another rule that we need if we are having yes or no at the beginning. And that is yes or no, always have a comma after it if it is used at the beginning of something. Okay, so you would have no comma, I want pizza. And oh, we also need a capital I for the pronoun. So I want pizza needs to be just the I needs the capital as well. Okay, then I need to think, no, I want pizza. Because he is demanding it, it is likely that he is going to be saying it quite loudly. So for that reason, I am going to have an exclamation mark before my inverted commas. Okay. And then the final part, Simon, because it's someone's name, it needs a capital letter. And the very last part, you need a full stop at the very end to show that it is the end of the sentence. Okay, so I will save those bits so that I can send it through to your parents and you can kind of check your answers. So make sure that I've saved it. And let me just